Hey there Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. Alright, so I am here today with the introduction video to Capricorn season. So with that in mind, I just want to start off by saying happy birthday to all of you Capricorn, solar Capricorns out there specifically. It is your season, it is time to shine and all that good jazz. But with that in mind, what we're going to be discussing in today's video is, well, we're going to be taking a look at the sign of Capricorn by addressing your Capricorn house, by addressing your Saturn sign and house, as well as your 10th house within your natal birth chart, all with the intention of explaining the archetype of Capricorn overall. So let me know in the comment section down below, where do you have Capricorn placements within your natal birth chart? Do you not have any placements in the sign of Capricorn? Also, what is your Saturn sign and house? And also let us know in the comment section your 10th house placements. So also just looking at your midheaven, comment down below. And if you want to know more information all about the sign of Capricorn, well, I have created this book. It is an ebook, so there will be a download link. You go through to my website and you can purchase it there. But shout out to the winner, okay, of the front cover. This illustration is absolutely amazing. Katrina won the Capricorn round from the Zodiac Art competition. But in terms of what's in this book, you can find information all about interceptions, so Capricorn Saturn intercepted. You can look at the 10th house intercepted. It also looks at, well, basically it's a how-to guide. So it looks at Saturn through the signs, through the houses. It looks like at Capricorn ruling the houses. And it's just a really handy book overall, just to really show you how to practically navigate your Capricorn/Saturn energy. So with all those introductions out of the way, let's do this. For more information all about archetypes, then please be sure to check out my introduction video. But in a nutshell, an archetype is a primitive mental image derived from the collective unconscious. And when it comes to the sign of Capricorn, well, the mental image is what looks like a goat with a fish tail. But there are 3 different ways of drawing the Capricorn symbol, but all represent the same thing. You notice a set of goat's horns to the left-hand side of the image, but a loop to the right-hand side of the image, and this loop is the tail. In Greek mythology, sea goats were wise creatures. They lived in the sea and they could think and speak. And interestingly enough, the constellation of Capricorn can be connected with the Greek story of Priapus. Story goes that Priapus lived in the sea with his many sea goat children. But what they tried to do is they tried to make their way to the shore. But the implication with this is that they would turn into normal goats, meaning that they would lose their ability to think and speak. So what happened is that the sea goats were making their way to the shore, and Priapus was very, very disheartened by this because he was losing his children. He basically wanted to do something to make sure that this would not happen. So what he did is that he went to Cronus, the god of time, and asked Cronus to reverse time. Cronus reversed time, and so the sea goats were back into the sea. But Priapus, of course, knowing what he knew, he then tried to stop the sea goats from going to the shore. But what happened is that he could never stop them. They would always manage to find a way to make their way to the shore. From this myth, what we recognize here is the importance of learning from the decisions and the choices that we make. We also learn about the importance of really letting go of control and accepting what is. Just like Priapus tried to control his sea goat children from going to the shore, he had to come to this acceptance. Now eventually he did accept it and he just kind of let go. And once he let go, then that is when Cronus placed Priapus into the sky and created the constellation of Capricorn. So when it does come to us, what we learn from this story is that we can't exactly control our destiny or the destiny of others. Sure, we can control ourselves to an extent, but the reality is that in life, there are many things that we cannot control. And the sooner that we realize this, perhaps the happier and more content we will be. Though still, it is this symbol of Capricorn that signifies an individual's sure-footed ascent. So their ascent to the top of their successful mountain, so to speak. Whilst the tail side of the sign signifies the holding back quality. Therefore, what this symbol represents is an individual's determination to liberate their spirit from any ties that hold them back in life, such as rigid ways of thinking, resistance to change, or failure to accept what is, like the death of a loved one, for example. And to be fair, we can all be guilty of these things to some extent. So take, for example, the boyfriend who would much rather control their partner than address their inner fears of rejection. Or take the employee who has been asked to leave their job, but instead of accepting it, they fight against it. Or maybe take a mother who shelters their child instead of allowing their child to learn from their mistakes by making their own decisions. Kind of similar to the story of Precus as explained. Ultimately, it's the sign of Capricorn that calls us to let go of resistance and identify just how resourceful we are. Yes, it's also about our capacity to build slowly and purposefully towards a goal that will gain us recognition and prestige, but on a spiritual level, it's about us building these same qualities within ourselves, no matter how long or hard or slow things appear. Now, before we do dive more into the archetype of Capricorn, let's take this a step back in order to identify where we are coming from. And we're coming from the archetype of Sagittarius. So Sagittarius season, the season before Capricorn. Now, it's this sign of Sagittarius that really represents our quest for knowledge. It's a period where we seek new opportunities and experiences in order to grow and expand. And by doing so, our worldview and minds also expand in the process. We are also inspired to seek future aspirations and visions, meaning that Sagittarius season is a season of getting us out of our comfort zone. However, as we approach Capricorn season, the dialogue changes. It changes to a rather grounding and practical dialogue, because what Capricorn season teaches us is how to materialize and bring into concrete existence these Sagittarius future aspirations. I mean, it's all well and good to talk a big game or to have loads of amazing ideas as to what you seek to achieve, but to actually make them happen, well, that's where Capricorn comes along, encouraging us to really put in the time, put in the effort. Sure, someone might turn to you and offer you a job opportunity, but if you're late all the time, if you're constantly putting out a half-assed effort, or if you're quite frankly not pulling your weight, then why on earth should you be recognized by your managers or your superiors as being somebody who is qualified? Your managers will most likely find someone who is capable at filling your post. See, it's Capricorn that is about taking responsibility. It's about respecting authority. It's about establishing a strong sense of character by understanding the process found in self-discipline and self-control. So, being on time, showing up to work in correct uniform, dealing with customers or the public in a professional manner, knowing the boundaries between you and your authorities, you and your clients, you and your customers. Knowing the rules and the regulations that exist within the job that you're in. In fact, it's Capricorn that is all about professionalism. Knowing the distinctive difference between what is professional and what is personal. Knowing the difference between what is public and what is private. See, Capricorn energy isn't really about spilling all the personal and private details, or spilling the tea as it's called today. It's much more cautious and calculated. It's much more deliberate and strategic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint an image in your mind in order to really explain what I mean. So I want you to imagine that a landlord who is seeking money from one of their tenants, but the tenant can't pay the rent this month. They say to the landlord that they can't do it because X, Y, and Z. They spill all of their personal private information to their landlord, such as their family member being sick. Now the landlord, they may show empathy and understanding towards the tenant's reasonings for not being able to pay. However, the following month, it happens again. Perhaps the landlord lets this one slide as well. But come the third month, the tenant has still not paid. The landlord then is left with a difficult decision. Because on one hand, they may want to be the nice guy, but on the other hand, they're owed 3 months rent. It's really up to the landlord to be a professional in this scenario by not letting the tenant's private, personal life sway them. After all, the landlord is running a business. And in actuality, by this tenant not paying the rent, well, it's going to also have implications upon the landlord's life and living situation. Therefore, the landlord really does have a responsibility to step up, take charge, and assert their authority. So I hope you can see what I mean here in terms of how Capricorn is a sign of professionalism. But following on from this point, it's Capricorn as well that is about the long game. It's a sign that respects the long term and natural waiting process. So Capricorn energy is willing to wait for proposals or projects to come to fruition. It's also a sign that understands structure and building upon a strong foundation. For example, building upon a long-lasting relationship or building upon a solid and stable income. Ultimately, this sign really does switch our focus to how long-lasting systems operate in order to gain reward or success from within them. It's also acknowledging that this process comes with blockages and bumps in the road along the way. Minor or major setbacks are going to happen in life, but it's how we tackle or deal with these things that makes all the difference. See, it's the archetype of Capricorn that really represents the maturity of an individual. It looks at our journey towards adulthood. And it's through maturity that acceptance of our limitations come into play. For example, an adult breaking down in tears because they were told no isn't exactly a mature way to handle a situation. A child doing it, okay, yeah, sure, but a grown-ass 45-year-old woman, you might think, is there something more going on beneath the surface here? Meaning that it's Capricorn that addresses the mature adult way of handling stressful or difficult situations. Even when it came to recording this video, there was a lot of noise and construction going on outside. Sometimes I would react by being all angry and pissed off about it, but today I decided to take control and do other productive things instead, but now I'm back and the construction has ended. Now, of course, I'm not saying that emotions shouldn't be expressed, but with maturity comes the maturity of our emotions as well. I mean, if a 50-year-old man started yelling and screaming in a coffee shop towards his wife, people in that coffee shop would be likely to alert the authorities or the police for his behavior. Then again, is this society's fault for how we have viewed emotions? Are we not all savages underneath it all, just like the Marina song suggests? Hidden behind shirts, ties, and marriages? And I suppose in a way, Capricorn does represent this earthly bondage to rules, laws, the establishment. So you had better abide by the laws of the land, or else. Better to play the material game of life than be thrown in prison, right? Or maybe it's better to break through these boundaries or barriers and demand a fresh outlook, just as the sign of Aquarius likes to do. Aquarius being the sign after Capricorn within the zodiac wheel. But regardless of whether or not we play by the rules or we revolt against them, it's a sign of Capricorn that represents humanity acting civilized and well-behaved in our dealings with others. It seeks to respect elders and authority and tradition. But ultimately, it's acknowledging that by playing by the rules or the game of life, you will be rewarded. By putting in the time, hard work, and effort, you will also be rewarded. And we also learn about the importance of tradition from this archetype. So let's take a look at one of the biggest traditions of all that occurs during Capricorn season: Christmas. You could say that Capricorn rules over traditional events, holidays, and rituals. Now, whether you agree with certain traditions or not, they do serve a purpose. Traditions can be useful and beneficial. For example, they can provide comfort and belonging within families. They can enable people to reconnect. They can celebrate diversity, and they can also serve as an avenue for creating long-lasting memories. Purpose of Christmas, however, well, that's a debatable one. Christians will tell you it's to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. Pagans will tell you it's about sun worship, corresponding with the winter solstice and seasons. The average consumer may tell you that it's about getting presents and spending time with family with zero religious or worship connection. Then again, a 5-year-old child, they might tell you that it's about a big jolly old man dressed in a red suit delivering presents down your chimney, provided that you've been ever so good. But regardless of the purpose, Christmas is a tradition that has really stuck, and it doesn't look like it's gonna go anywhere anytime soon. And so in this respect, this is what we learn from the archetype of Capricorn. We learn about tradition and existing structures that have existed over a long period of time. But we not only learn about them, we seek to understand how they operate and function. So with all that being explained, what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide some media that I personally think can be associated with the sign or archetype of Capricorn. Now, wherever Capricorn is located within your natal birth chart, it is going to show you where you mature and approach things in a pragmatic way. It's a house where you learn how to really grow up and become an adult. It's where you deal with things sensibly and realistically in a way that is practical. So for example, if you have the sign of Capricorn ruling your 4th house, you may have grown up in a family home where you had no other choice than to mature and grow up. Maybe you were assigned certain duties that were not necessarily fit for a child, and these very things, they may have taught you then how to be self-sufficient early on. But then if you have the sign of Capricorn ruling your 10th house, well, you may develop much maturity when it comes to career or your chosen vocation. Maybe you knew from a very young age the type of impact or influence that you wanted to make within society. Your Capricorn house is also going to show you where you show or earn respect, as well as where you establish a great deal of self-discipline. So for example, if you have the sign of Capricorn ruling your 3rd house, you may use your intellect to show or earn respect from teachers, siblings, cousins, or simply from your peers within your school. You may also show a great deal of self-discipline when it comes to learning something new, like learning a new subject at school or learning how to drive a car or a motorbike. Likewise, if you have the sign of Capricorn ruling your 9th house, you may establish self-discipline when it comes to your higher education or any particular training programs that you choose to pursue. You may show much dedication when it comes to the likes of philosophy, law, travel, or history, for example. The Capricorn house also can show you where you experience setbacks and delays, as we were explaining earlier. However, as I was saying earlier as well, it's also about accepting limits that are out of our control and personal power. So for example, if you have the sign of Capricorn ruling your 5th house, when it comes to romance or the dating scene, you may find it difficult to express your flirty or romantic playful side. Maybe you have some insecurities associated with your ego to work through first. Then again, maybe it's about you accepting limits that are out of your control or personal power, such as what your partner or person that you're dating, such as what they do within their spare time. Likewise, let's say for example you have the sign of Capricorn ruling your 11th house. Setbacks may occur when it comes to your friendship circles. You may find difficulty connecting with others. Perhaps it's about accepting limitations that are out of your control, such as a friend's character changing due to them being influenced by other people. The Capricorn house can also be an area of life where you are tested on your character. So looking at honesty and integrity. So for example, if you have Capricorn ruling your 1st house, you may be tested on how well you can commit to your choices, your actions, and your decisions. Your boundaries may also be tested when it comes to the likes of your name or your physical appearance. Likewise, let's say you have Capricorn ruling your 7th house. Well, you may be tested on how committed you are to your relationships. Do you, for example, follow through when you say you're going to do something? Or are you honest with your partner when it comes to your whereabouts? Or do you put in the effort in order to settle differences between you and your partner? Furthermore, your Capricorn house can show you where you become cold, rigid, or controlling. You may display behaviors that lack feeling or empathy here. Of course, there can be a place for being cold and unfeeling, especially if we seek to make sure that we aren't walked over by others. But too much of this can restrict us in our Capricorn house even more. And then we may start to wonder why life is so hard and so cruel and so unfair. Likewise, the Capricorn house can show you where you take on too many obligations and responsibilities, resulting in your energy levels running pretty low. These things may result in you seeing things as quite burdensome and negative. Again, negativity does have its place, just like positivity, but it's how we move through it and use it that matters. So for example, if you have Capricorn ruling your second house, you may be cold and rigid when it comes to your finances. Feelings of lack may occur when it comes to your materials and your possessions. So you might not purchase gifts for your friends, you might not share with other people, you may hoard your materials, or you may be quite greedy due to fear of losing what you have. Plus, you may also devalue yourself by refusing to acknowledge your skills. Then again, maybe the starting point of getting good at a certain skill is the hardest part. Likewise, let's say for example you have Capricorn ruling your 8th house. You may be rigid when it comes to being vulnerable or when it comes to exploring your sexuality. Feelings of lack may occur when it comes to intimacy and bonding. You may also find it difficult to process your emotions when it comes to the likes of death, or you may be bogged down by the joint accounts with your significant other. Basically, the joint accounts may feel like a heavy burden on you. However, just to end this on a more positive note with the Capricorn house, well, the Capricorn house is also where we develop expertise through hard work, time and effort. And by doing so, we are rewarded. So let's say for example, you have Capricorn ruling your 6th house. You may become an expert on the likes of nutrition or health. You may develop or establish a master system that results in achieving your day-to-day tasks. Likewise, let's say you have Capricorn ruling your 12th house. Well, you may become an expert on the likes of spirituality or meditation, or you may work alongside patients who are struggling with the likes of drug or alcohol addiction. You may literally work in a hospital or a rehab center. Now, when it comes to the planet Saturn within your natal birth chart here, well, it's important to keep in mind that the function of Saturn is to build structure and bring order to systems. Saturn sets up and organizes basic foundations so that solid and reliable plans can be used to create matter and form. To put this into perspective, imagine a romantic couple wanting to build and buy a new house. This process, it may start off with an architect, followed by construction workers, builders, contractors, mortgage advisors, real estate agents. Hope you see where I'm going with this. It's these people who plan everything out and organize a particular system. This right here is a prime example of how Saturn operates. So Saturn in the 5th house, for example, the 5th house being the house of hobbies, interests, spare time pursuits. If you have this placement, you build upon these very things. Gradually, over time, slowly but surely, you'll have created the likes of, I don't know, a children's novel, became a professional entertainer, or became an incredibly talented athlete. Or let's say you have Saturn in your 7th house. The 7th house being the house of relationships and business partnerships. So if you have this placement, you will build upon these very things. Again, gradually over time, with much discipline and commitment. Maybe you'll marry a spouse who comes from an established family, or who you can create an established family with. Or maybe you'll enter into a business partnership that is built upon respect and responsibility, resulting in much reward for the two of you. Saturn is a planet that really does focus on the long term. No shortcuts or get rich, quick schemes here. And if you try to take the easy way out when it comes to Saturn, you may just find yourself falling flat on your face. So best to be patient than run before you can walk. And besides, it's this process that can benefit us in the long run. Take, for example, an individual who collects Pokemon cards over a certain amount of years, and they keep those Pokemon cards for a long time. This individual becomes 60 years old maybe. That person can then sell their Pokemon cards for a lot of money. Meaning that when it comes to the energy associated with Saturn, if you're not in it for the long haul, maybe it's best to stop while you're ahead. Therefore, it's Saturn within your natal birth chart that will show you where you create a solid and long-lasting foundation. Now, it also looks at preserving materials and resources rather than being wasteful. Saturn leaves little room for error or mistakes. Now, it's also a planet, however, that shows us that mistakes are inevitable, but it's about us learning from our mistakes in order to grow and be rewarded. And furthering on from this very point, Saturn can be viewed as a karmic planet. It can show you where you get caught up in a recurring cycle that feels like a punishment. Saturn can also show you where and how you might feel insecure or inadequate. However, by you facing Saturn's challenges, your ego can be strengthened and rewarded. It really boils down to breaking free from karmic cycles by taking responsibility for our actions. Now, the location of Saturn can also show you how and where things seem pretty dreadful or burdensome. But by developing a thing called a backbone, we can use this energy in a much more substantial and adult-like way. So switching our dialogue from I have to do this to I want to do this or I get to do this. Perhaps obligations are obligations because we recognize them as such. Maybe our approach to adulting is the problem, not adulting itself. Take, for example, a child tidying their room, and the parent demands the child to do it. It's more from a place of you have to, you must. This approach in itself may create some sort of resistance within the child. But if the child actually feels respected, if they feel recognized, maybe them tidying the room won't feel as burdensome. And it is pretty interesting in this way because there is a lot of talk within the spiritual community about adults getting in touch with their inner child. But what about the child getting in touch with their inner adult? I am not saying that a child should be exposed to adult-like type things or that they should work like an adult. I mean that maybe it's about showing understanding towards a child where you respect them, you know, you show them respect, you recognize the child and you reward that child and you really do make their efforts seen. So with all this being explained, when it comes to your Saturn sign, well, that will show you how you build structure and establish order within your life, how you plan thoroughly and carefully, how you take calculated risks, how you conserve materials, how you make decisions based upon the long term, and how you reap the rewards for your hard work and effort. Naturally, when it comes to the Saturn house, well, this will show you where you perform all of these things as mentioned. And Saturn will also show you how and where you deal with these restrictions, how you face challenges, how you take responsibility and address any insecurities or feelings of inadequacy. When it comes to the 10th house then within your natal birth chart, well, the 10th house is also referred to as the midheaven, which, by the way, I have created a midheaven series as well as a parody midheaven series, so be sure to check those out if you want to. But the midheaven represents the highest point of your chart, and it really is the most seen and in view area of your life. So planets here, essentially, they stick out the most. The 10th house really does correlate with the public eye. And so in this respect, you're much more consciously aware as to how you appear in front of the public whenever all eyes are on you. Members of the public really do see your 10th house. But the moment a particular member of the public introduces themselves to you, they are greeted with your ascendant. Now the midheaven, it is associated with your reputation and your status, whereas the ascendant or the first house is associated with your basic personality and mannerisms. Furthermore, the midheaven opposes the IC or the 4th house, referred to as the Imam Coli or Coli. And this IC represents your private world. What happens behind closed doors. How you act and behave with loved ones or family members or relatives or friends. But it's the midheaven that represents your public world, how you behave around others who quite clearly can observe and judge you without knowing a single thing about you or your history. Now, according to Liz Green, the midheaven shows how you would really like to be seen by others and how you describe yourself to others. So for example, if you have a Leo midheaven, you may like being seen or recognized for your ability to direct and lead. But then if you have a Cancer midheaven, you may like being seen or recognized for how good you are when it comes to the likes of pets or children. Ultimately, the midheaven, along with planets in the 10th house, they will show you what you want to be respected and recognized for. Furthermore, this house corresponds with your achievements, your accomplishments, your reputation, your social status, and like I said, recognition. Meaning that it's an area of life where we are highly ambitious, determined, and enterprising. So for example, if you have a Gemini midheaven, your achievements may be focused on your studies or your intellect. Or if you have a Taurus midheaven, your achievements may be focused on your materials and possessions. Now it is also important that we find a healthy balance here, because there can be a tendency to use the 10th house placements in an unhealthy way. Take a look at many social media personalities, for example. They're sharing every single detail of their life online, endlessly comparing themselves to others, and they're wondering why on earth they're suffering from the likes of anxiety and depression. Now, of course, not all humans are showcasing themselves online, but when it does come to the 10th house placements, they can also represent or correspond with an individual's contribution to society overall. So for example, if you have a Libra midheaven, you may contribute to society by making sure that you cooperate well with others. But then if you have a Scorpio midheaven, you may contribute to society by transforming the public's view on likes of sex and intimacy. The 10th house is also a house of career and vocation. It can represent the type of career that you pursue, but also how you approach career. However, it is also good to look at your 2nd house and your 6th house for further insight, along with the placement of Saturn, the Sun, the North Node, and even Jupiter, because of course Jupiter is all about meaning. These are all indicators of purpose, life path, and destiny. So for example, a Pisces midheaven person, their career may involve fantasy, such as painting, modeling, music, acting, performing. Or a person with an Aquarius midheaven, their career may be associated with their humanitarian pursuits, such as charity work, community involvement, or fundraising. The 10th house can look at purpose, and it's purpose that provides us with a sense of direction, with some sort of meaning. And so in this way, the midheaven can also address this very purpose. For example, if you have a Sagittarius midheaven, you may share your knowledge and teach others not necessarily as a way to get paid, but just because that's something that you choose to do, and this in itself may be purposeful to you. Or if you have an Aries midheaven, your purpose may be to lead or to motivate other people. Lastly then, the 10th house can also show you how you approach members of authority, such as teachers, professors, managers, your parents, and also the government. Saturn and Capricorn do rule over politics and the government. So for example, if you have a Capricorn midheaven, you may play fair game with members of authority, or you may completely clash and seek to be the authority. Likewise, if you have a Virgo midheaven, you may be self-serving towards members of authority and present yourself in an almost flawless way. Then again, it could be suggested that you get kind of nervous around members of authority. Overall, it is the sign of Capricorn that signifies structure and discipline. And it's these things that will manifest into whichever area of life Capricorn rules within your natal birth chart. Saturn will then show you both how and where you build structure, establish order, plan, conserve, make decisions based on the long term, and how you reap the rewards for your hard work. It is then the 10th house that will show you how you seek recognition, how you're seen by the public, how you approach your career and purpose. Okay then, Cosmic Warriors, so that concludes my very long introduction video to Capricorn season and the archetype of Capricorn. Again, let us know your Capricorn placements, your Saturn placement, your 10th house placements in the comment section down below. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching, thank you for subscribing, and if you would like to see more videos from myself and you have not yet subscribed, then go right ahead and click that subscribe button. And I will be back with another video very, very soon. Bye!